Hi, so this is my depiction of what English means to me. I'll kind of start by talking about the different pieces that I put together in here. So the first, I'll talk about the symbols first. So I incorporated up here, there is like a thought bubble that kind of trails down this way. I feel like, to me, and I want to preface this by saying I probably, if you'd have asked me in my schooling if to draw a picture of English or what English meant to me then, I feel like it would have been vastly different. So, as I was creating this, I kind of thought about how far I've come in defining English for myself. But yes, so thought, to me, English is it prompts, its cornerstone is critical thinking, being able to think deeply, being able to look at texts through your own lens and think about how you are bringing yourself to a text, any text, right? So that's why I drew this guy here. And in the multicultural lit course that I took actually with Dr. Dale, we talked about, looking that everything you read, right, you're bringing yourself to that. And I've kind of explored that a little more since taking that course. But where there are places, so currently I'm teaching my students we're starting some literary analysis, but I think it's important to look at not just what's on the page, but also what's off the page as well. And so, and what's off the page is usually filled in with our own experiences. And so that's kind of like thinking right here goes with that. That's why I drew the thought bubble, because you're thinking about how it applies to yourself and kind of thinking about what sort of experiences you bring. Here I drew a magnifying glass because I also feel like when you are reading any sort of text, not that English is just text by any stretch of the imagination, also when you're looking at digital media or anything of that nature, I think a lot of English is being able to break that stuff down and analyze it. So explore it a little, right? And to take a close look at it, to see how it's affecting you in some ways. And so that's why I included this magnifying glass here. One of the things for me too is I drew these hands here with life in the center because I think that literature encompasses all of life and vice versa. I know that sounds really heady, but it's something that I've come to kind of try to define for myself, that without the existence of life, there wouldn't be literature, and a lot of literature is representative of our lives. And I think that that's become even clearer to me as I've, explored this discipline more deeply and as I've gotten older, that there's definitely a reflection of your life in literature, or everyone's life in literature. And so it's almost everything in a way to me, because it can be a reflection of our society in so many different ways. So I included that there for that reason. The book kind of just signifies your typical, classic textual literature. But like I said, to me, a text doesn't always have to be a book by any means. In fact, here recently I've been looking at how, video games are their own texts and trying to see how I can incorporate that into my classroom. But I do think that this is just symbolic of text in general. And so I included that there as well. A theory that often comes up is, looking over here at the window, a theory that often comes up is texts or English as a window into another world. And while I still believe that to be true in some ways, even though I know that there are there's much more to it than that. I still believe that, to me, texts and writings give you a look at what's inside someone else's mind. And sometimes that can come full circle and show you what's in your own mind. And so that's a big part of that for me. And to touch on the writing piece, I do have the writing inside of the book. Writing is a huge part of English to me, but I feel like the writing is what creates these texts that create everything that I kind of included here as a symbol. I also, as like a finishing touch, I added some of these colors because I feel like there's a variety of things that exist in English. It's not just black and white. It's not just one particular way to look at things, right? There's a whole slew of things that can be represented. So I try to include these different color elements to kind of show that there's a lot going on in what we call English, right? There's so many things and so many different ways you can look at it and so many different representations. And so I included that as well. And that's kind of my picture, my representation of English here, kind of summed up the best way that I can sum it up. Thanks.